scheduled to go on a 2-week recess.
And now for more on the Republican point of view, we turn to Congressman Rob Wittman of Virginia. He joins us from Capitol Hill live this morning. Good morning, Congressman. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
Let me ask you first. We know, obviously, the president met with Speaker Boehner last night and Harry Reid and others. Do we know, or do you know yet the details of where there is agreement and where there is still disagreement?
Well, we haven't heard any of the specific details. We do know that the numbers are coming closer, the differences between both sides and the spending numbers. But anything outside of that, we don't know any more of the specifics at this point.
Funding for the government runs out tomorrow night at midnight. That's early Saturday morning. And, you know, there's a 72-hour rule that is in place. Is it too late now to avoid a shutdown? Will there at least be a shutdown over the weekend and into the beginning of next week?
Well, I don't believe there has to be. I believe that you can suspend those rules and get this passed through both the House and the Senate. So I think that in this situation, that rule can be suspended.
Let me ask you this. People are obviously talking a lot about this. Congress, as you know, is already held in low esteem by a majority of the American people. Here's what I'm hearing people ask, and I will ask you. Why can't you all get this done? There seems to be a feeling that this is one of the most basic, simple, not simple, but one of the most basic things that Congress and the executive branch have to do: fund the government, make sure things run smoothly. Why is it so hard to make this work?
Well, they're absolutely right. We need to have gotten this done. In fact, the budget should have been adopted in 2011, and we wouldn't be in this predicament today. But that is the basic constitutional responsibility of Congress. That is to adopt a budget to fund the government. So they're right. This needs to be done. It needs to be done without shutting down the government. I don't want to shut the government down, but what I do want to do is to make sure that we're shutting down runaway spending and making sure that we put this country on a sustainable path as far as its budgets and where we're going with these runaway deficits and this burgeoning debt.
You've also expressed great concern about the fact that military personnel, if we do have a shutdown, military personnel and their families may not get their paychecks. Is it possible to avoid that scenario?
We have to. There are a number of bills in there, in addition to the continuing resolution that the speakers put forward, that will make sure that our military is funded. We owe it to our men and women in uniform and their families to make sure that they get their paychecks on time and that they're fully paid. It would be unconscionable not to do that, especially with our men and women that are serving downrange, putting their lives on the line to defend this country. We owe it to them and their families to make sure that we do not have a situation where their pay gets suspended or where their paychecks are lessened.
If there is a shutdown, there's talk that this time around federal workers who are furloughed will not be reimbursed for that time that they miss. In 1996, most of them were. Do we know where that situation stands now? Does it look like they won't be reimbursed?
Well, I don't know the specifics of that right at this particular point, but I will say this, that we should not take out on the backs of federal workers inaction or inability to pass a budget by the Congress. I think that they need to be made whole if there is a shutdown. And as I said, I want to make sure that we avoid a shutdown, but that we shut down this runaway spending and this runaway deficit.
Obviously, many on both sides of the aisle want to get a handle on government spending. At this point, though, do you think this process has become too politicized?
Well, it doesn't have to be. I think we all know where we need to be. We look at these deficits, we look at the debt, we know what has to happen in a budget. So it doesn't have to be as politicized as sometimes it becomes. Both sides need to realize that the end is something that we have in common, and that is we have to reduce these deficits, we have to reduce the debt. And it has to be done in a significant and meaningful way. I believe that that is before us. The American people tell us this is what needs to be done, and all of us need to come together to get it done.
All right, Congressman Rob Wittman from the 1st Congressional District in Virginia. You got a long couple of days ahead of you. Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Allison.
Tony, the government shutdown will have a major impact on services here in